Welcome to Fantasy Plus. It's the week. We made it through week one. And keep this in mind. Don't panic. It's just week one. It's only week one. It's kind of an extension of the preseason. I'm Aaron Lafferty, your host, along with Phil Pinarski and Alec Giannakopoulos. Today we're going to try to take you through the dangerous waters of week one and if you should overreact or underreact or appropriately try to spend too much of your fab or waiver wire priority on players. Guys, any thoughts on week one real quick before we
I disagree. I'm a panic guy. I love a good panic.
Yeah.
Nothing like living and dying with every week. It's week one though, you know, some things are weird, there are outliers. This waiver wire doesn't get me rolling. I don't want to give you a State of the Union here, but I'm just going to say I'm all about a good panic. If you're going to panic, I support it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to panic, you should do it in week one. That way you still have the rest of the season to come down from the highest peak. But
you can save and if you won week one, you're winning your league.
Oh,
congratulations.
Exactly.
It's all going to work out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was lucky enough to, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a little bit, I was lucky enough to win week one. I'm not panicking. I'm living the high life. I'm not going to change anything probably the whole season, even during those bye weeks. I'm too confident right now.
I'm playing Phil in the finals. How about you, Aaron? Did you win week one?
I did not.
Oh, so you're not going to make it.
Yeah. Phil got the trifecta. He got the Raiders win.
Yeah.
He got the fantasy team win, and he got the survivor pool win.
Yeah.
Alec, you got 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the Bears that much today.
I got 1 out of 3, so there you go if you're keeping score at home. All right, let's do it. Let's start with plus or minus, everybody's favorite segment, plus or minus players that had boom weeks. And then, so that would be like, are you in on them? Would you pick them up? Obviously, you're starting them if they have boom weeks, but if maybe they're on waivers, would you pick them up? Let's take a look at some of the running backs in that situation. We got Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson. Javonte Williams comes out of nowhere. James Cook, Christian McCaffrey, and he did it without scoring a touchdown.
That's right.
Who wants to start? Running backs.
Do you want us to pick one that we're super in on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be negative.
We're just making this up as we go. So.
Yeah, right.
I'm actually going to give Christian McCaffrey a scared minus because I don't like that he already had injury news going into the season. So to me, I would say minus if you're going to bank on him to win you your league. I'm just worried. I'm just worried he's going to get hurt again. And I think it's great. I think when he's healthy, he can give you those games where he's not touchdown dependent because he can be a great receiver. You can use him any down. He is a gadget guy. Like he's the best ever gadget guy because he can do anything at any time when he's out there. So I'm scared. I'm always scared of injuries. Don't seek out injuries because they'll find you. And I think that guy is still a walking injury risk.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stay positive, but I do have a hot take, and that is the fact that the positive should be Derrick Henry. I know, hot take. But you got to think he's a huge part of that Baltimore Ravens offense. He had an incredible game, and really all anybody I feel like is talking about is the fact that he did have that costly fumble, but I don't really remember. I don't have the stats in front of me to back this up, but I can't think of too many times when Derrick Henry actually loses the football. I mean, it's pretty hard to even tackle him, let alone strip him. So I think that might be few and far between this season. Derrick Henry's only going to have much bigger and bigger games.
Nearly 30 points in week one,
yes.
So that's a mainstay there.
I'm going to throw a sideways paddle, I should say, up. What are we doing in the backfield of Dallas?
Yeah.
Are we? Because if we're talking
what are they doing in Dallas?
Right. But if we're talking about guys you can get off waivers, there's really only one, right? And that's Williams. Is he going to get that workload? It's a crowded backfield. Are they going to rely on him? Obviously, if he is on waivers, I hope you picked him up. But that's the only one out of the 5, with Christian McCaffrey's injury status withstanding, that I would say, I don't know if we're going to get that week 4. So I want to ask the room here, what does that Cowboys backfield look like?
I think personally you got to take into account the fact that Jalen Carter did not play a single snap in that game and maybe kind of help the Cowboys offensive line out a little bit, especially near the goal line.
Yep.
So I'm more towards the negative side than maybe halfway.
Yeah, look, I had Javonte his rookie year on the fantasy team, and he kind of fell off a cliff with the injury. Maybe he's back. Maybe he's healthy again, but I'm still not sure, like Phil said. The Eagles, they didn't have Jalen Carter, and everybody's spitting mad about that. Let's move on to wide receivers that had a boom week. Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnston, Emeka Egbuka, Keon Coleman, and Deebo Samuel. most of these guys probably drafted, but maybe they're available in waivers. Anybody out there that really gets your attention and why?
Well, the only waiver guy I would look at is Johnston. I think
Right.
he was the number one waiver pickup or one of the top waiver pickups this week.
Yes, he was.
Do I give him a plus? It's like, it feels like this year is different because you don't have that unbelievable guy who you can jump on after week one.
Right.
I think like people are hoping that's who he is, but we can't forget how crowded that receivers room is. How, you have McConkey, you have Allen. It's going to be a heavy passing offense, but not all games with the Chargers are going to be games that rely on the air that often, that much. We know how much a guy like Harbaugh loves to run the football. Mm-hmm. So, I guess my fear is that we're like really trying to pretend he's Puka Nacua and he's this year's like, oh yeah, it's finally time. Former first round pick. He never really was able to find his stride. This is it. I think he's worth a waiver pickup, but I don't think if we're talking fab, he's not worth a quarter of your budget. Like, I don't know if we have as exciting of a week one waiver wire as we've had in the past.
Right.
Phil, your thoughts?
Somebody I do want to touch on is Emeka Ibuka, if I could say his name, Emeka Ibuka, because the guy I was playing in week one had him on his bench, and I'm so glad about that. I'm giving him a big plus now because of just an incredible week one. And again, he was already kind of floating around as a possible, sleeper pickup or a really great pickup if you can get him in a later rounds. And honestly, I think if he even does half of what he was able to do in that first game against the Falcons, the Bucs, one, are going to be in great shape, and also I feel like next year he might be getting picked up in rounds 1 or 2.
Yeah, he was in that really fun pocket of like the 8th, 9th round receivers who have a lot of upside, and I think he could be a league winner. I don't think that's a flash in the pan. I think he could be really special.
Absolutely.
That guy that had Ibuka on his bench was Jack Doles.
Yeah, I didn't want to call him out.
I will. It's okay. As the host, I'll do it.
Yeah.
He's not here. Week one, boom quarterbacks. We got Josh Allen. I mean, come on, everybody. That's not really a surprising. That game, we called it, guys. We called that game was just huge for fantasy points. Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson against Josh Allen, and then Justin Herbert down in Brazil. Phil, how about why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, I think there are two obvious negatives here. I'll take Daniel Jones just in particular. I don't think the Dolphins are all going to be that good. I think there was a lot glaring wrong with them. I think it was more so the Dolphins not being ready for week one compared to Daniel Jones. All this resurgence that he's magically had in Indianapolis. So yeah, I'm out on that. I think if you were lucky enough to start him in week one, congratulations. You might want to start thinking about, especially as the season kind of goes on, maybe picking up somebody else.
Justin Fields was a really fun pickup if you got him in the draft. He wasn't one of those top 5 guys. It's important to remember that fantasy is different than just real football. And I'm not calling Justin Fields bad. I do think he still has a lot of potential as an athlete. But man, that floor is seemingly always there. Like, he is able to run, and he's a big game hunter. Like, he can hit the deep ball, and I think that was a really encouraging sign for anyone who picked up Fields late, but also if you're a Garrett Wilson owner, because I think this could really reflect what the Bears did in 2023, I believe, where it was Fields who only fed DJ Moore. Like, that was his guy, and he had his alpha, and he fed him. Wilson had a really good week. And I don't see why that wouldn't continue. So I think that was a really good time to have one of the two. And if you have both, then congratulations on winning week one.
Yeah, I put a bid out there on Daniel Jones for $2, and somebody had a slightly better option. So it's like, $2, whatever.
Sure.
I didn't get him. It's okay. Plus, they've got a hard matchup this week. So I wasn't, they're playing Denver this week. So I wasn't going to overpay, especially, like Phil said, the Dolphins may not even be ready for week one. Maybe they're one of the bottom end defenses. We'll see.
Right.
Let's take a look at the tight ends this week. Kincaid, Bowers. Bowers got hurt in that game. Kelsey, Juwan Johnson for the Saints, and then Tyler Warren, the rookie. We had a lot of other guys, too, to mention. Zach Ertz, Sam Laporta, Noah Fant, now with Denver. George Kittle got hurt with 10.5 points. He's now on IR. Jonnu Smith, Tucker Kraft had about 9 points. Then you have a couple young guys. You got Fannin on Cleveland. He had 10 points. And then Tongas replaced Kittle, had the game-winning catch and scored 9. There's a lot of names in the tight end pool, which we don't always see. What do you guys think?
Week one is So, like, you look at the tight end list, and there's your, usual suspects. And I think Warren is someone who definitely has the potential to be a constant guy. But tight ends, especially week one, they're such a minefield because it's week one. Guys are looking for checkdowns, looking for throws up the middle of the field, and offenses aren't in their final form. So a lot of these guys, like what's going on in New Orleans, like we don't know if Johnson's going to be a consistent guy. We don't know how that offense is going to even look come week 3. So this gets scary. I think like there is going to be 2 guys in that list you read off, Aaron, that are going to be like consistent full-time starters. We just don't know who they're going to be. Like looking at this list, yeah, most of those guys, I would say maybe saving Johnson, they got drafted pretty high. Warren was one of the later round guys, but these guys are guys you feel good about. I think Bauer's that injury. I think he's coming back. I don't think it's a serious injury.
He's only questionable.
But when you talk about the guys that you kept reading, like this is where it is in my opinion, it's not a guessing game, but a couple of these guys will not be getting targets week 3.
Right.
And that's where you have to be careful.
I think that list that Aaron was showing, though, I mean, if I just had to pick a name that I was kind of surprised by, that would be Travis Kelce. And honestly, I'm the complete opposite way of thinking now after that week 1 performance. And now with another injury to that wide receiver room for Kansas City, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to rely even more on Travis Kelce, even if he's only going to grab you a couple of catches and, maybe a touchdown here and there. I mean, that's still pretty decent production out of the tight end position. So I think if you maybe had him on your roster and you were a little worried about it, you could either potentially trade him and get a pretty big haul back, or definitely maybe hang on to him because I think he's going to be pretty useful, especially down the line.
Yeah, you'll get a high floor. And the Chiefs are weird because it just feels like the regular season is we're just going to wait for the playoffs. We'll give guys you've never heard of touchdowns. But yeah, I mean, that relationship, you can't deny it. I mean, Kelce is Mahomes' guy, and we saw it in week 1. So I agree with Phil here that the floor at least is high, and considering where he was drafted, you may have gotten really good value, which goes against everything I am as a fantasy person, because I think once you get old, I have no interest in you. But, I mean, some guys are ageless, some guys are timeless, and Kelce, he may not be as good as he was, say, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, but in a what can be very limited resource pool that is tight end, you can do a lot worse than where you drafted Travis Kelce.
Right.
And real quick, for those people who had Kittle and lost him, he's out on IR for at least they're saying 3 to 6 weeks now. Any of those names that you would pick up?
Well, Fannin is the guy everyone's picking up.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's a great lottery pick. I think it's a great, maybe he'll be a consistent guy. I think has given just as much reason as anybody else that he might be that consistent guy. I just want to pump the brakes a bit on the expectations. Like, don't add him to your team and think, 10 points week 2, here we go. Right. Just because it's tight end and it's so weird, and there is going to be 2 guys. There will be a Sam Laporta this year. There will be a Bowers this year, like a young, fresh face that really enters in the top 10 tight end list. I don't have the ability to look through a crystal ball and tell you exactly who that is. But it may be him.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I didn't draft any Raiders on purpose because I did not want to run the risk of hating them any more than maybe I already do. But Michael Mayer, I mean, he is going to be a stud. I liked him when the Raiders first picked him out of Notre Dame. I thought he was going to be a huge part of that offense. And obviously Brock Bowers coming in kind of changed things a little bit as far as where the attention is going to be, both on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball. But I think, he flashed some really good spots against New England. I think, the Bowers injury, again, doesn't seem to be too dramatic or too big of an injury for him, but I think having him as a backup is not a bad idea.
And that was a rainy, wet game, too.
Yes.
So we'll see. And so that they got some good passing game work even in the rain. Okay, let's take a look at the not-so-fun players of the week. Ken Walker, my Seahawks. Pacheco, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Omarion Hampton. You got 2 Lions on this list. All of these guys scored less than 5 points, 6 points or less for all these players listed. Who are you most worried about?
got to be one of the Lions guys, right? I mean, it's got to be. I mean, just for our own perspective here at News 8, I mean, we definitely want the Lions to have that consistent running game, but I think I was the most surprised by just how both guys were pretty much ineffective against Green Bay. I would say if I had to pick one guy to maybe bounce back specifically this week against Chicago, it would probably be Jahmyr Gibbs. But yeah, I think both the Lions guys were very disappointing in that first week.
Yeah, I'm not panicked about the Lions just yet. True to Aaron's sign. I'm not ringing alarm bells just yet because the whole offense couldn't get going.
Right.
And one thing about Gibbs to notice is I think he still caught like 10 passes that game. Like he was still used a lot in the passing game. And I think like that's going to give you still a high floor. It didn't work out. The whole offense, I should say, was falling apart on Sunday. But I mean, look, there's been a lot of emotional Lions fans on Twitter, and I get it. Week one, you're waiting all summer long for week one. Week one happens, and it's, not what you were hoping for. But this offense is still the offense with the same personnel, by and large, that scored the most points in football last year. I think both those guys are going to have their value, especially where they were drafted. I think Gibbs is still a running back one. I think Monty is still a potential flex guy, depending on the week, basically where their draft value was. But give it 2 more weeks. If this is still what it is after the Ravens game in week 3, all right, then we can start running around and screaming. But I think we need more time. The guy I'm worried about is Pacheco, and he had a great year last year. The Chiefs just worry me. They're so weird. It's like when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, anybody can be the star at any week, and it's sometimes not who you were hoping for. It's just kind of almost like buying in on one of the Eagles receivers at I would say maybe a little greater extent, where this offense doesn't necessarily always run through skill guys. It's a quarterback-led offense, and sometimes a game can get away from a team, and they don't rely on their running back as often, like we saw in week 1. And even when they are relying on their running game, Pacheco might not be that guy because sometimes the Chiefs find a fun guy off waivers to give the ball to 15 times. So I'm not worried about Hampton. He's going to figure it out. Walker, that's a pretty good team still. But Pacheco, I look at and go, that might be actually a sign of things to come.
Other names not listed: Tony Pollard, Jonathan Taylor, Travion Henderson, Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson I took a little too high in the draft, I think, the way it's starting to look.
Yeah, that's the Hawkeye, and that one hurts my heart. But
Yeah.
Caleb Johnson had a really bad first week, and that's also a backfield that is interesting. The Steelers always usually run some kind of committee. They're going to do it again, and be patient. Don't drop him by any means if you drafted him, but it might be a good time to throw him on your bench in week 2.
Yeah, they're playing the Seahawks this week, so. How about some busts? A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, George Pickens. This almost seems like some kind of a preseason ranking list. These are players that didn't do well. All these guys scored 5 points or less in half-point PPR. Even if you go even farther, Hill, St. Brown, Mike Evans, Brian Thomas Jr. had 8. So, but everybody else just not looking as good. Sometimes it's the game. The game kind of leans that way. The Eagles didn't throw it as much. So I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
It's week 1, and I think the thing that comes last for offenses is timing up receivers. A lot of those guys, I'm not really worried about anybody on that list, to be honest with you. I would say like A.J. Brown will have games where it's just Saquon, right? And it's just touchdowns are all on the ground, or there's only one passing touchdown. But you knew that, or you should have known that when you were drafting him. Like I think like all those guys on that list you had, I don't think any of them I'm going to panic trade or bench. Run them back. Week 1 is weird, especially for wide receivers. And Terry McLaurin was holding out for most of his camp. Like there's stories behind some of these guys where they don't have the chemistry with their quarterback just yet. They'll need more time. None of these guys, I would say, are, even the guys that Aaron listed after the list, are guys that I would panic bench or panic trade.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with Alec on that, especially, he hit it perfectly on the head. I mean, that is the last thing that most teams do focus on, kind of leading into that week 1. All those guys, we were singing their high praises before the season even started. I think it's just, small blip in the radar. And most of those guys, I mean, they were winning. And so, they're trying to run out the clock, or maybe they were just dominating kind of on the ground already like the Eagles were. So, again, no reason to to throw the ball in. Everybody knew about the A.J. Brown situation because I believe it was last year, the year before, they even had that dust up about him not getting the ball enough. I feel like the Eagles have moved past that. But again, that's still something you should have kind of taken into consideration before the draft even happened.
That said, anybody in our league, disregard what we've been saying. Trade those players to me.
Yeah.
They're worthless.
That was what I was going to ask. Is like these players are definitely players you could target if you have teams in your league that are panicking. Maybe make them an offer they can't refuse.
I'll take them.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks. Going through this a little quicker. Tua had a bad week against the Colts. 5 points. Nick's had 6, depending on your league scoring, 6 points. Prescott 7, 8 points. He looked pretty good though on Thursday night. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, both less than 10 points. Also Joe Burrow less than 10 points. Trevor Lawrence had 10. Goff had 10 or 11, depending on your scoring. I've seen Tua dropped in a lot of leagues.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
I get it. I think it's a little early to drop Tua, but I get it because that offense is scary. Like that, and that's not a good scary.
No.
I get it. The thing about that list is that's kind of how you hit the draft with quarterbacks, though. Like if you're out of the top 5 or so guys, I think Burrow maybe is the one highly drafted guy that underperformed. And again, passing sometimes happens a little later. You shouldn't panic about Burrow. But the rest of the guys on that list, you get those guys late because they have good weeks, they have bad weeks. And for a lot of those guys, Bo Nix especially, like it's just a bad week. Yeah. Those guys have shown they can light up the scoreboard and light up the fantasy rankings before. But Tua, man, you combine the injury history with how disjointed that team looks, you shouldn't be starting him.
No.
If you have room on your bench for him, though, give it a week. That offense may prove to be something a little bit better than what it was week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everybody on that list who would be the one guy I would say at least if you had to, for some reason we're starting him in that first week, I would maybe at the very least put him to the bench and just scope out. I don't think the Dolphins it just looked really bad, and it's a really rough situation, and you again account for all those injuries. I don't know too many people that would have wanted to start Tua in the first place, but again, if that was kind of your one option, you definitely can't do worse than what happened in week 1. So I think you do start looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I had Bo Nix in another league and didn't win.
Safe to say.
Tight ends: Mark Andrews, T.J. Hawkinson, David Njoku, Dallas Goedert, Trey McBride. Some top names here. Not great weeks for these tight ends. Any thoughts on this one?
I'm going to echo what I said a little earlier in twofold, and I'll keep it somewhat brief. But tight end is a bit of a wasteland sometimes. But for these top guys, the last thing that teams figure out is their timing and their passing and their relationship and their routes with guys like Andrews. Now, Andrews has been on the way down.
Right.
Hawkinson has had hot and cold days, but he was dealing with a rookie quarterback who could not figure it out week 1, or the first half of week 1, I should say. So we're not going to, especially if you drafted McBride or one of the top guys, you're not going to panic. I would say maybe consider picking up Fannin or one of those guys as a backup tight end in case this trend continues, but none of these guys makes me specifically feel the need to get them out of my starting rotation.
Yeah, I actually had David Njoku on my team. I started him, that definitely wasn't his best week. A little bit concerned just because I thought he would be kind of the focal point of that offense with so many questions at quarterback, and Nick Chubb's not there anymore. So that's what I was kind of hoping for. Still not completely out of him. Still going to probably start him in week 2. But again, that was probably like the one name. But like Alex said, I mean, you never really know what you're going to get out of the tight end situation anyways.
Any of all the names we talked about, at least in the bust section, that you might be targeting as a trade?
I would say anybody on the wide receiver board.
Yeah.
All those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say any one of those it really jumps out to me because we don't know what passing games fully look like yet.
Yeah.
I said it earlier in the season. I'm going to say it again. Week 1 is like an extension of the preseason.
Sure is.
Teams are still trying to figure out what they're doing, They're scheming, they're planning, whatever. They're not all on board yet. Let's start.
Right.
Let's just jump to the Thursday night preview. Why don't we? This is a big game, especially coming off last week.
Yeah.
We got both teams 1-0. Washington coming into Green Bay for your Thursday night game on Prime. Who wants to chime in first on the Washington Green Bay game?
This one's going to be fun. The Packers look like a well-oiled machine. Lions fans know that. I would say feel great about starting most Packers. I really do. I think especially like I was really impressed with what I saw from Tucker Kraft week 1. I was impressed with what I saw obviously from Jordan Love, although we kind of had a hot and cold half. And Josh Jacobs just always gets touchdowns. I think he's had like 9 or something straight games of getting in the end zone. So I feel good about starting most of the major Packers. Maybe cool it on Matthew Golden. I think he only had 1 or 2 catches. That is a guy you could have gotten in the Kameka Buka range that needs more time. He's a rookie, but I do think he has tools for later in the season. I feel great about most Packers. That defense looked really good. And I don't know how good I feel about a majority of the Commanders. They're going to get their points, but how many of those points will be Jaden Daniels doing it himself? Obviously, Terry is primed for a bounce back, but the Lions couldn't get anything going on offense. So I guess my question, or my statement is this. If you're colder on the Lions this year, if you think that offense is going to take a step back, I think then it's full go. I think you have no problem starting any of those skill guys and let it rip. But if you think that was a really good Packers defense that stymied a team that otherwise is going to be successful in the Lions, be careful because that offense against the Giants didn't fully really wow me. I know Debo did well, but Terry didn't, and they seem to stall out a lot, so they seem to still be kind of starting and stopping. And that was a Packers defense week 1 that had full enjoyment of the fact that the Lions were starting and stopping.
Phil, before you jump in, are you picking, Alec or Phil, are you picking up the Packers defense if they're available after that week 1 showing?
Picking them up, yes. Starting them this week, if you want to. I think they'll get points. I think that defense is really good. But if they're out there, pick them up. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the defense is good, but I'm kind of in a weird boat here now because I think that it's going to be a shootout, kind of like what we saw on Sunday night between the Bills and the Ravens. So I think if you've got offensive pieces on both the Packers and the Commanders, I think you should start both of them. I really was impressed with Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers defense. But again, I do think it was more so just the anticipation behind having a guy like that on the defense. You're playing at home. It's week 1. You're playing against a Detroit Lions team that really didn't get a whole lot of practice in the preseason, a whole lot of experience. They're breaking in new coordinators. So I think it was all just kind of building up to a Packers victory in that game. So if I had to say, probably stay away from the defense, at least for this game. I think it's going to be a pretty prolific offensive scoring game.
So, I think that Packers defense could be the best in the league because you look at how they bottled the Lions, and a thing you realize is Parsons wasn't out there a whole lot. Right. They brought him out on passing downs, and he was great. He collapsed the pocket. He made Goff, throw the ball or feel the pressure. But they did what they did to the Lions by and large without him, and that's what scares me because eventually Parsons is going to be an every down guy.
Yeah.
What is that going to look like?
Sorry, Phil. As of right now, the line is Green Bay minus 3.5. So, as of Wednesday morning.
Yeah. I think there's just something about Jaden Daniels, man. I feel like he's going to just provide a whole other element that Jared Goff, doesn't. I know Jared Goff is sneaky athletic, but, Jaden Daniels is one of the best athletes in the entire league right now. I think his ability to get out of the pocket, even if it's just running for 4 or 5 yards, you're getting 4 or 5 yards every single play. I mean, you're going to march your way down the field.
Someone's going to eat. They're not going to shut out Daniels. I don't know if it's going to be a shootout. I don't know if it's going to be the equivalent of what we got when we had the Ravens and Bills on Sunday night.
Yeah, maybe not as late exciting as that game, but I think we could see quite a bit of points for sure.
We could. You know who's going to tell us about the weather for Thursday night? Blake Harms. He's going to tell us what kind of weather we're looking at for both Thursday night and the rest of the week. Take it away, Blake.
Well, the upcoming Thursday night game looks to be a lot more cooperative weather-wise than our previous one. Of course, last week's game delayed by about an hour due to lightning. But this time, as the Commanders head to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, we're looking at much quieter weather conditions. That's the case across the Midwest, with temperatures expected to be in the upper 60s. Futurecast keeps us partly cloudy. Don't think we're going to see any sort of major system sweeping through. In fact, about as quiet as it gets for a Thursday night here in Green Bay. And again, temperatures a touch on the warm side. We've had a Seasonably cool conditions across much of the country, at least through the first weekend of the NFL season. But as we head into this weekend, conditions look a bit warmer. Here's a look at some of those matchups. We're looking at temperatures mainly in the 70s and 80s for highs this weekend. A lot of sunshine. No major weather systems look to be rolling through, at least in the outdoor stadiums, which means that as we head through our second week of NFL matchups, no major games that stick out for any uncooperative weather, which means we should see a lot of games being played without any sort of weather delays this weekend.
All right, thanks, Blake. Good to hear that weather is not going to be impacting most of our games that we're watching. We got a lot coming up for you the rest of week one, rest of week two. Our Survivor Pool picks, an update on the league, and maybe some more. We'll see. We'll be right back. All right, so week one is in the books. Everyone survived in the Survivor Pool this week, despite some
Got close.
some differences of opinion, some games. Alec, you and Jack were in the Thursday night game, both sweating it out, and you guys won. I had the Broncos. Maybe I should have had two different pages here, but I'm taking the Ravens this week against the Browns.
Yes.
At home, and so is Alec. Jack's taking the Bengals against the Jaguars. Lainey made it through with the Cardinals. She's taking the 49ers at the Saints. That's 2 weeks in a row she's picking against the Saints.
Not a bad strategy.
Not a bad strategy. If I can get to the second page, there you go. Phil, you survived with the Steelers.
Oh, man.
With that late field goal, winning 34-32. You're joining us on the Ravens bandwagon this week. Scott went with the Rams against the Titans and the number one overall pick, Cam Ward. He joined Laney with the Cardinals, and then Blake took the Commanders, who had the biggest win of the week of all the Survivor teams. Washington won 21-6 last week, and he's joining Laney, taking the 49ers against the Saints. Reactions?
Yeah, pick the Ravens. If you have time to pick the Ravens and you Survivor, Jack and I have the same kind of school of thought here. Survivor Pool, like saving teams for later is a fun idea, until your close matchup is the upset and you're out.
Right.
Pick like there's no tomorrow, because there could be no tomorrow. The Ravens should boat race the Browns. That is, I mean, come on. You saw that team week one. The Browns are still trying to figure it out. We say that every year. Poor Browns. But that seems to be a safe bet. But I'm happy I got through week one, because that's the minefield. That's when you don't know how anyone looks. Right. And that's when you think the Eagles should take out the Cowboys easily on prime time, and you end up with a close game, especially after a rain delay where just 3 points were scored in the second half. So especially early in the year, if you're unsure about where you're going to go on your Survivor pick, please just pick the heavy favorite, because if you were saving the Ravens for week 6 or whatever and you lost in week 3, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think first I want to say congrats to everybody. I'm so glad we all made it through week one. That's always the big worry there, is you never want to go out in that first week. No. So the fact that we were all able to do that, very good. What sucked was having to cheer on the Pittsburgh Steelers for the whole first part of the day. I mean, I never want to do that. Definitely don't want to cheer them on any further now that I don't have to pick them anymore. But again, that was such a crazy game.
That was crazy.
Definitely entertaining. I was glad the game was at least entertaining. Would have been nice if maybe the Steelers put it away a little bit better, but kind of echoing what we all think here with the Ravens and Browns. I mean, it's, for me at least, it's less about the Browns and more so about the Ravens. There's no way they go down 0-2 to start the year. There's just no way. And we saw how great they were against the Bills. I think it's just going to be kind of the same thing, but less of what happened in that fourth quarter. Yeah,
they're a team to contend with. They're a Super Bowl contender, so you definitely pick them. You know what? We went a little out of order. Let's take a look at the rest of week 2.
There we go.
I was excited because we all won. So
we all won.
Week
yeah,
one.
It's a happy week.
We all survived.
Hey, we make the rules here. We don't need that.
Yeah, that's right. Throw out the rundown.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm looking through trying to see other games that I feel pretty good about. The ones obviously picking the Niners over the Saints. That one feels pretty good. If you're feeling bold, pick against the Dolphins whenever because that team looks pretty bad. And New England, while not being a powerhouse, seems to at least have more cohesion. The Dolphins do, but I mean, you go for the big disparities, you go for the blowouts, and I think it's either some form of Ravens or 49ers coming into. Who picked Cincinnati and Jacksonville?
Jack did.
Jack's getting bold
Jack
here.
picked one of the Bengals.
Because Cincinnati still has some things they have to figure out. Now they're at home, and not like the Jags were world beaters week 1, but I could see it go the other way.
Yeah, I'm even having trouble. Thank goodness for the Ravens and Browns game, because I'm even like, I don't really feel confident in any of these teams as much as I do for the Ravens against the Browns. Because even San Francisco and New Orleans, obviously the New Orleans Saints did not look great again, probably kind of what we were expecting, maybe a little bit better than maybe what some people thought, but still not going to be beating any teams. But San Francisco is dealing with a lot of injuries and emotional week 1 win and dealing with the kicker drama and everything like that.
Yep.
Again, there are really few games, even Minnesota and Atlanta. You might want to think, okay, Minnesota coming off an emotional win, they're probably going to ride that at least a little bit. They're maybe a better put together team on paper, but Atlanta can surprise anybody. I think they looked really good against Tampa Bay for some of that game. So again, it could just be needing to get a little bit more time together, and they couldn't pull off an upset. Again, there's not really one game on here that I'm super confident about except for the Ravens and Browns. But I think if you did pick the Ravens in week 1, you're already out of the survivor pool, so I guess it doesn't even matter. But I think if you should pick, that should
Use
be the
the
top choice easily.
Right. Just like last week, is the Eagles. I always like to look ahead 1 week before I make my pick, just to be like, okay, how do I feel about next week? Is there going to be a team that potentially is a slam dunk next week? And that's what I felt on week 1 with the Ravens being at home week 2. Okay, fantasy wise, games that are standing out. I can't get past the Buffalo Jets, the Battle of New York.
Sure.
That looks like some fantasy gold there. Buffalo's defense, Alec, you mentioned it previously, still has some things to figure out. Tampa Bay, Houston, you got to be concerned about that Houston offense.
Slow out the gate.
So you might need to pick somebody else other than your Texans. Their offensive line was struggling. Any games stand out to you guys fantasy-wise, either good or bad?
The you mentioned, I love Jets Bills. I think that's a really good way to get points on both sides of the angle. And I'm trying to find another one that has that kind of
I'm starting Drake May against the Dolphins, by the way.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
I could see Philadelphia, Kansas City getting fun.
Yep.
That Eagles defense, especially without Carter, who will be back against the Chiefs, definitely gave CeeDee Lamb owners something to hang on to. If he could hang on to the ball, they'd have more. So I could see that one being fun. I could even see Carolina and the Cardinals being fun. I'm trying to think of teams that have somewhat big players with defenses that aren't defined yet or completely solid. I think those could be good. I even think Chicago and Detroit could be fun. Nothing is as interesting to me as Buffalo and the Jets, but just coming off of a week 1 when so many offenses were slow out the gate, I think you can feel a little safer now knowing that they've had their first week. Every team gets their best from week to week, from week 1 to week 2, and you can start to bet on those offenses that you think were trending up coming into the year.
I think the one game has to be the Sunday night game. You've got Atlanta and Minnesota. I think all their skill positions, most if not all of their skill position players are probably on some team in your league. Yeah. So again, that's going to be a game that is, and again, it's the Sunday night game, so it's going to be one of the last games played. A lot's going to be riding on how well those players perform, and I would be surprised if. I guess not surprised, but I would say that that's probably the game I'm most looking forward to, especially on a fantasy level. I've got a couple of guys that I'm going to be kind of keeping a close eye on in that matchup.
My concern is how does Penix handle that Flores defense?
Right.
He's still very young. That defense loves to overwhelm young players. It happened to Caleb Williams, and he still got some points. He got a touchdown, or two rather. But that's the one thing. I think you're right by and large, but that's the one thing that gives me a little bit of pause.
And he looked pretty good, but Drake London got hurt. So how will he deal with that? Will that mean more targets for Kyle Pitts?
Or Bijan Robinson getting more carries.
Are you saying it's finally Kyle Pitts' year? Are you saying this is
Finally.
it? It's been 4 years of us trying to get this guy to get points, and this is the time? Because I'm all about it. If someone wants to point me in the direction of let's finally make this guy relevant, I'm here for it.
It'd be the 1 year that we have all these tight ends available.
Yeah,
Right.
And then Pitts is finally getting 10 points. I think we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the league. We'll talk about what else we got going on, any questions, comments. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us on Fantasy Plus. We got a bonus plus or minus segment. We're going to look at flex players who are not running backs and wide receivers, not in the top 24 because you play two in most leagues, or tight ends not in the top 12. Let's start with some running backs. I tossed it to you guys. People like Kyron Williams, Alvin Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, Omarion Hampton, Ken Walker, James Conner, Breece Hall. Anyone want to pick up one of the? Want to put one of those players in their flex?
Well, I actually am starting Kyron Williams and Chuba Hubbard right now as my running backs, and they did really well week one. I think if you've got the option to place them, maybe they're on your bench, and you saw what they were able to do in week one, and maybe you want to move them up to the flex, and you've already got a couple of running backs in there, definitely would suggest it worked out well for me in week one.
That was not casting shade on your team,
No,
Phil,
right?
by saying that they should be in the flex.
Are we going to name off everybody on my
his
team? Yeah.
What I like in the flex, I like a high floor. I hope my RB1 and my RB2 and my receivers 1 and 2, I hope they are the guys with league-winning, game-winning potential. I want floor, and I'm mad I didn't get him in any of my leagues. I'm a James Conner floor guy forever. I think he is the guy that will always get you at least
Absolutely
the amount of points you need. I think some of the other guys are guys who could be running backs 1 and 2. They just maybe had a slower week or whatever. But that guy to me is like, if you remember how great it was to have James White on your team 7 years ago, right? You knew he was getting you 11 points.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful spot for the flex. So I'm a Connor flex truther, and I'm mad I didn't have him in any leagues this year.
I think especially if you could get like a starting running back in the NFL as your flex, not even having to start them in the running back position, I think you're in pretty good shape.
Sure.
The one I'm worried about on that list is Ken Walker. Been worried for a couple
Went
of
to my
years
high
now.
school,
Fun fact by Phil. As a Seahawks fan, I've been worried about Ken Walker and his durability for years. Charbonnet, I picked him up or drafted him in many leagues. I think he's going to play a bigger role. This might be a committee, and the Seahawks right now, the run game is looking like a committee. Looks like they're going to be running more than passing based on the week one against the Niners, but we'll see what they do against the Steelers. All right, how about some wide receivers that might be in your flex, or they might be in Phil's starting lineup? Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, JSN, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, or Garrett Wilson.
So I think a couple of those guys to me are higher than flexes. They're receiver 2s or 1s. But if we're talking flex, like where they probably got drafted, I'm gonna like slightly show the plus. I'm gonna just like peek it out.
There we go.
Okay, so it's not a full plus. It's like a little, and that's towards DK Metcalf. They're gonna throw the ball a lot. I think I wanted Aaron Rodgers to target DK more. I think I figured he would be his true one, and he spread the love a little more. It's a sign that they will pass a lot. So if we're talking high floors, I still feel like DK will get his share of targets every week. I think Tyreek Hill is more of a boomer bust than Metcalf is. I think Metcalf has a higher floor. The reason why it's shy, the plus is hiding behind the microphone, is just because I don't know if he's going to be your alpha, your guy who gets 8-9 targets a game. So I like a high floor. It's a great spot for a flex. I think that's probably where it looks like he'll be this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do that same thing then, just slightly showing the plus right now. For Devontae Adams. As I think if you can get him now's the time to do it. I think once Matthew Stafford is back to fully healthy, that passing game is going to get back going. I like Devontae Adams a lot, especially in that flex position. Maybe not a starting receiver, definitely in the flex position, because he's going to have a stretch of these weeks in the middle of the season. I already see it now, where he's going to be able to tally up quite a few touchdowns, maybe even multiple in a game, and that could really save you, especially as we kind of progress through the rest of the season.
I'm worried about Mike Evans. He just barely got that 1,000 yards last year. I'm concerned. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Not to sound like a Seahawks homer, I keep talking about Seahawks. I did one negative. Where's my paddle? Yeah. One negative, one positive. He had more than 50% of the targets. So look for him to be, if he's in your flex right now, you're feeling pretty good. How about some tight ends? Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, Mr. Pitts that we talked about last segment, Kyle Pitts, Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Jonnu Smith, or Cade Otton. If you would use any of them in your flex, if you're desperate because maybe you got a wide receiver injury or running back injury.
Yeah, you're crazy if you're flexing a tight end. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry.
There are a million other options.
You drafted a team and everyone tripped over something and pulled a hammy. I don't want to rain on a parade, but most of those guys sound like such a boomer bust guy, and you already have to do that for a tight end. Out of all of those, I think Ertz has a pretty good relationship with Daniels.
Right.
Sure, but man, if you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna flex another tight end. By and large, it's a bad idea unless you have the equivalent of last year's Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Or you can get Taysom Hill again.
Sure.
Yeah.
You can run that grift. Yeah. And you can make him
if that works.
Yeah.
Unless somebody like Ertz, you're saying a lot of these guys are touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
If they don't score a touchdown, they're getting you like 4 points.
And I hate that in my flex.
Yeah.
I want my flex to be high floor. I want my guys out there to take the swings. That way, if they don't have a big day, I can rely on my flex to give me some points to supplement.
Right. So maybe if you're in some weird league where they play two
you're
tight ends.
You're a maniac. Yeah. If you're in a 2 tight end league, you are a fantasy sicko, and we should get you on the show.
I'm in a league where there's.
Well, you're hosting
you're a fantasy sicko.
That makes sense.
It's one wide receiver, and then the second wide receiver is wide receiver or tight end. I'm not the commissioner. It's not my league. I'm just in it. It's the one league that I'm just in.
Yeah.
So we'll see. That's a shout out to Corey in Oregon. Anyways, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna take a look at our league. Who did well in week 1 and who's looking ahead to week 2? This guy, and then. We're asking an overtime question that these guys don't know what I'm going to ask. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Fantasy Plus. We're looking at week 1 in the league. Both of those two guys won. I did not, but that's okay. Things happen.
Still early.
Yeah. I lost to the boss by 3.5 points.
Oh, and the boss was getting real. He was starting to talk a little bit before this show started because I made fun of the fact that he had a backup kicker in defense, and he won week 1. So the boss let me hear it. So I'm let down that you didn't put him away there.
Yeah, I'm looking for Drake May to have a good game against the Dolphins this week.
Yeah.
But Derrick Henry carried me last year. He's doing the same this year. Then we had Dan beat Brian Sterling by 8 points, thanks to Mahomes, McCaffrey, obviously. Then Jack, let's see, I'm looking on the screen here. Jack had 98 points, and Phil had 121.
Yes.
And Jack's not here this week. I feel like there's some
Interesting,
correlation.
Interesting.
You know, I had a pretty big lead. No shade to Jack, but I had a pretty big lead going into Sunday night. And then when I saw Josh Allen score 42 points, got a little worried. Thankfully, he has the Ravens defense.
Yeah.
They had -3 points, so that helped along the
Oh,
way,
that's
too.
cool. Yeah. So Josh Allen and Bijan combined for what? 2/3 of his output.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and then you had to feel pretty good about Herbert on Friday night.
Oh, yeah, no. And again, I did call it on this show last week. I said they were going to open up the offense, and boy, did they. I mean, as soon as that first touchdown went for Justin Herbert, I was like, okay, I'll take that. I thought that was going to be good enough. Ended up throwing 2 more, so kind of lucked out there.
I was banging the drum for Chuba Hubbard all preseason, and there you go. He got you 16 points.
See, this is why you should listen to Aaron's advice.
We should get that on a tube.
Yeah.
Clip that for promotions.
Right.
All right. Looking at the other 3 games, Cam took out Gavin pretty decisively. Gavin's best score was Kamara with 12.7, Bucky 12.
Man. That's
His kicker is
His kicker was his
you
third best
you
player.
never want to see your kicker up there, man.
It's
That's
a tough,
brutal.
It's a tough start for Gavin, but maybe he can bounce back in week 2. Kyler had a decent day, but he was sick. Breece Hall did okay. Jackson Smith-Njigba, as we mentioned. The champ had just a few more points than Gavin got in week 1, beat by Matt Jaworski in our web department, which you've seen on Wood TV Plus. And then we've got the sports department rivalry. Alec, you were able to dispatch Laney in week 1. Thanks to Mr. Purdy.
Big win for the Iowa offense enjoyers.
Yeah.
What I liked about my week 1 is I didn't have a guy score 50. Like across the board, we got contributions from everyone. That makes me feel good about my team. And now watch none of that matter, and I score 50 points next week.
Yeah.
But I felt good.
A little worried about Mike, though. I mean, obviously did not have the start that he wanted, but now, I mean, George Kittle was his second best player, and who knows when he'll be back.
Yeah, and Gibbs had kind of a dud for him, so we'll see.
But, I mean, if you have Lamar and Gibbs on your team, they're going to win you.
Yeah, never mind. I don't feel so bad.
It's just that 69 points is hard to get past. So after week 1, Phil, I know we were talking about clipping it last week and sending it to you.
Clip it again.
Look at us.
You're still on the
Look at
top.
us.
Your 2 guests are the leaders. You should listen to our fantasy advice, everyone. We're geniuses.
I got to go back to a 3 box here. Do I know how to pick guests or what? These guys are leading the standings, leading the league. Or, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's week 1.
I'm going to hold on to this forever as I'm 1-2 after week 3.
I'm going to bring it back.
I don't really appreciate the fact that on my side in the East Division, we're all 1-0 at the top, and I'm the only one that doesn't have a 62% chance of making the playoffs. I know it's only 2%, but
Why? Yeah,
I'm offended by that. What's going on?
That's the platform math. I have no idea. I have no idea.
You know what?
I don't do that.
It's just going to make us come back even stronger.
Did I have the most points scored in week 1?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, I'll take it.
Let's
I'm going to pretend like I did.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
we can go back.
Oh, you can check if you want to. Nah, Phil got by 4 points.
21.
Oh, dang.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, look at us.
But you guys were the 2 highest scorers.
1 and 2.
I'll take
guys,
it.
listen to our
2 highest
advice.
scores.
Yeah.
Tops in your division.
Right.
Let's go.
Let's
go.
You should listen to us.
Yep. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. Let's look. Let's see. Here we go. So Jack is coming off the loss to Phil. I'm coming off the loss to Brad. We'll see what happens. I think Drake May has a bounce back against the Dolphins. Hopefully, the Chargers run the ball more than they did in week 1, and I can combine with Henry and take out Jack. Facing Josh Allen is not.
Does he have 3 quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's why I stopped talking.
No, right.
I was like,
wait, hang on.
Wait,
All
his
right.
projected leaders, that's not right.
Yeah.
You can find a way to get all those out there and look out.
Just because you're sports director doesn't give you the right to start 3 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah.
Jack's trying to super flex us.
That is funny.
Phil, you're taking on Brian Sterling.
Yep.
He's got Jaden Daniels in that Thursday night game.
I know. But he's another one with 3 quarterbacks apparently.
Hey,
so
you know.
I don't know how I'm feeling.
It's fine that Brad can have 5 defenses on his bench, but 3 quarterbacks is suddenly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing with these projected players. Maybe it didn't take into account who was on the bench.
I will say
Brad's got 2 quarterbacks too.
Last week, I was down, or the projected totals. Again, we can't trust those completely,
Right.
but I was.
They're usually
supposed
within
to
10 points.
Yes, I was supposed to lose to Jack by 0.3 points, and it says I'm supposed to lose to Brian by 0.3 points.
go.
So hopefully, that is kind of just the trend that we have to deal
Take
with.
that
week
as
after
That's
week.
your number, yeah.
That's a good sign. Second page, That's where we find the Iowa offense enjoyer down there at the bottom.
That's right. We sure enjoy our
Projecting to barely beat Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, and Saquon Barkley.
I like this because I just dropped Trevor Lawrence, and he's my third leader on my team.
Well, that's why you dropped him.
Yeah, we don't have room for number 3.
I had to snip these off yesterday, so I had screenshots yesterday. Projected points may be subject to change.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I like having a guy like Purdy out there. I'm a high floor guy, and that's what Purdy is.
You like him over Baker in this matchup then? I would assume Matt would start Baker.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I don't know if I think Baker might get more points, but I know that I feel good that Brock Purdy won't not leave there with something.
Right.
As long as he's healthy, though. There were some
That's true.
concerns to start the week, at least.
If not, it's JJ time, and he did enough in the second half to make me think that he's an okay guy to start, especially stacking with Jefferson, who I had on my team.
And then in the middle there, we got Laney and Gavin looking to turn around their 0-1 seasons. Maybe with Jalen Hurts and Michael Penix versus Dak Prescott and Bo Nix. Why does everybody get more than one quarterback?
Yeah, the quarterback doesn't really
got
help
one.
you
I only have
preview
one,
the-
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ashton Genty should have. I know he scored
Yeah.
his first touchdown last week, but I think he should get a lot more carries,
Yeah.
and hopefully that'll translate. Because I feel like New England was just zeroing in on him, and I don't know if that's going to be the same case with the Chargers. I feel like they kind of know how this team is going to run now, and maybe prepare a little bit differently.
And that's our final word on week 2.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the overtime question for my 2 league
Leaders.
leaders in both points
Yeah.
and record. We'll be right back. Welcome back for our final segment of Fantasy Plus. Thanks for staying with us. As always, you can submit questions on X or Instagram or email us if you have questions. Maybe our league leaders in both points scored and,
Get that
and
right.
records.
Yeah.
Again, week 1. Don't panic. Here's the question, the overtime question this week. Who's your +1? Keeping with the plus theme of Fantasy Plus. Who's your +1 for the season? Who's the person that you couldn't stop drafting, who you're excited about on your team, especially after week 1? Alec, I see you. You've got the thinker face on.
Yeah, I need a second here for my +1.
Phil, any thoughts on your +1?
Again, I touched on it a little bit last week about the fact that I didn't, I guess, technically draft this guy in our league, but he did fall in my lap thanks to auto draft, and that's CD Lamb. I know he dropped a lot of passes in week 1, but just think if he's usually a sure-handed guy. Imagine if he completed those passes, he was able to come down with them, he's going to have even more points. I'm excited to see what he can keep doing because, again, just everything I thought about Dallas was kind of confirmed in that week 1 that they're going to be just throwing the ball everywhere, just letting Dak do whatever he wants. And then once they get in the red zone, maybe punching it in. So that doesn't really bode well. But I think a couple of times, especially throughout the entirety of the season, I mean, CD Lamb and Dak are going to connect on some crazy long pass. And that's probably going to be the winning play for me in a couple of games this year.
And they got the Giants this week too. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Alec, you've had some time to think
Yeah, I've
about
had
your
time to mull
+1.
it over as a league leader. I thank you for giving me time. My +1 are guys that I like. I think you can still pick up or trade for, and guys that I drafted in almost every league. First, I love Tucker Kraft. I really think like he has assumed a role on that Packers offense as the pass catching guy. I know they have him and Musgrave. I think that offense is set to go to higher levels, and tight end is so scary, and you want to get that guy who you can get late if you're going to fade out of those first 3 tight ends and really profit. I think that is one of those guys. I picked him in a lot of leagues. I like Ted McMillan a lot. I think he had a really impressive first week, and I think he didn't set the world on fire. So if you make a good offer for him, you can get him. And a +1 that didn't have a good week, but I think will. I'm all in, and this is a Bears fan talking. I'm all in on the Packers offense. I think you can get Matthew Golden for a pretty good fee for pretty cheap if you make the charge for him. And I just think like the way that defense works and gives that offense time to do its thing. Those are guys that I picked in almost every league, and those are guys that I love having on most of my teams. So those are my plus ones. I'm crashing the wedding. I got 3 guys.
Yeah, you got 3
We're taking
plus
a whole
ones.
table over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what you can do when you're a league winner.
Yeah.
League leader.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't won anything yet.
I'm just calling my shot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You won week 1. You
Yeah.
won week 1. Yeah, mine was Drake May and Isaac Tesla, and he had that amazing catch.
did?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm not starting him yet. I want to see what happens, but I've got him on my team. If people are interested, good luck. I got Drake May. I think he's going to bounce back. Last year, I think we were talking about Phil on Wood TV Plus on the preseason that he had like 7 yards of carry last year. I'll take that all day from a late quarterback draft pick. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Alec. Thank you, Phil, for being here this week and for gracing us with your league leading status. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you next week.